every day the first department to arrive at the Cincinnati Zoo is the commissary. That's where all the animal food is stored, prepared, and then taken to all the buildings so everybody can have something to eat later in the morning. I'm with Barbara Henry, who's the zoo's nutritionist. And Barbara, you've got it going on. This looks like a lot of eggs. How many eggs is that?
That's 30 dozen eggs.
All boiled at once, 30 dozen eggs. Why do you boil them?
Well, we would like to feed them cooked. Most animals wouldn't eat a raw egg, or if they would, maybe we would want to prevent any bacteria or anything that would be growing in the egg, so we would feed them cooked.
And it'd be gooey all around a big mass, yeah.
There are occasionally other animals who might get them raw.
30 dozen is a lot of eggs, so I guess more animals eat eggs than don't eat eggs.
Well, maybe. It only lasts a couple of days, though. Can you imagine?
That is why we go through a lot of eggs. We go through a lot, I guess, of everything.
We do.
$1 million a year food bill, but
yes.
Yeah.
That's about on the spot.
Yeah, and some things people would expect. We have a lot of hay, a lot of grain, a lot of meat, but I bet some unusual things too.
We do. We have a lot of animals that might eat rodents or quail or then specialty diets.
That's neat. Well, show us around. Tell us what else we've got going here.
Well, this is our kitchen area. So everything that comes into the commissary is ordered and received by 4 full-time keepers. And they keep this place running. Yeah. If it weren't for them, we couldn't get everything done that we need. They have to deliver food 365 days a year because even if we're not open, which is only 1 day of the year, the animals need to eat, most of them every day. Yeah. So they order everything and receive it, and then sometimes portion it out and sometimes deliver it whole. So you can think of us as a big grocery store.
Yeah,
with a lot more variety.
I look over here, I see bananas, and obviously you can just say, gosh, a lot of animals like to eat bananas.
That's true.
But is that a big bag of onions?
It is, onions.
Who eats onions?
Well, a variety of animals. We have a lot of different primates, and so we might substitute those in instead of maybe a carrot or a green bean, or you can maybe have an onion. Yeah. We have white potatoes, we feed sweet potatoes. There's a variety of nuts over there so that we can give them something to forage. And those are just the things that don't live inside the produce cooler.
Now we have thousands of animals.
We do.
Most expensive animals to feed at the zoo?
Well, before we sent Betsy and Bam Bam to Florida, it was the manatees. But now that we have 3 little guys, I need to get back to the drawing board and figure that out.
Yeah, probably. Well, elephants probably eat the biggest volume.
They might eat the biggest volume, but we have some meat eaters, and if you and I go to the grocery store, we understand that meat is expensive. So can you imagine having to feed all the carnivores in the zoo? That's a lot of carnivores.
That brings up an interesting question about where food comes from, because I know people will periodically contact the zoo and say, oh, we've got leftover food, or we've got bruised fruit, this, that. But I think you're pickier than I am.
That is correct. We have a set of standards for each type of food that we purchase, or if we're going to grow locally on our own properties, or if we're going to partner locally with some folks. And so, for instance, if we're buying meat for the carnivores, we have a set of standards of it really needs to be this much protein or this much fat, and we really need to make sure that it is wholesome and comes in and it doesn't have any bacteria or protozoa in it. But if you're talking about produce, it is going to be the same vendors that maybe a restaurant uses, and so we're going to have a really high set of standards. Everything has to be within its expiration. We have to pay very close attention to that, and we're providing for them, and they're not out foraging for themselves, and so you want to make sure they get the best and most wholesome diet.
Now, Barbara, I'm sort of amazed that though this is a big kitchen compared to my house, to get all our food through every day of the year, I mean, where do you keep all this food? How do you do it?
We definitely get multiple deliveries in a week.
Okay.
So for instance, we're standing outside the produce cooler, we get fresh produce delivered twice a week. And if for some reason something comes up in a pinch, they can bring it to us every day if they needed to.
Yeah, let's look.
So if you come inside, you will see that we have lots of different kinds of items in here. You have everything from corn on the cob to green beans.
More eggs.
Yes, more eggs. All of the boxes on that particular shelving unit is lettuce.
Now look at that, blackberries.
So this will be a substitution. So blackberries would have been something that they purchased, and then they'll give those out to the different primate areas, maybe the birds, and so they can offer those in maybe a very small quantity because they weigh out all the food items that are sent to the animal areas every day. So
to keep track for animal health.
Yeah, yes, to keep track of what their needs are and maybe don't give them too many, but yet not enough.
Oh, look at that.
So pineapple is something that we definitely would substitute over the years, but more recently, the primate areas are using this for training. And so if they want one item that they never get, except for if they're training to come off exhibit, they're using pineapple for that, and they're doing very well.
Because it's super tasty.
It is super tasty.
And it's a treat. Yeah, that is so great.
We get 6 or 7 different kinds of lettuce. So we have everything from collard greens to a head of escarole to kale. You know, it's very, very popular with humans. It has very good qualities, good fiber in it. It's very hardy lettuce, so it lasts over the week. And a lot of our primate diets, they'll get this sometime during the week, but perhaps not every day. The biggest lettuce that we type of lettuce that we use in quantity, however, is going to be your romaine. This is the #1 lettuce type that we feed to our manatees. So we can send over 10 to 15 cases, maybe with the new smaller manatees, twice a week. And so then they'll feed that out, and that's most like the types of food items that they would be foraging for if they were in South Florida.
Papayas.
That's very much on the bird diet.
A lot of fruit
Lots
eaters.
of birds.
That's fun.
Spinach.
Got a little spinach going?
Yes.
Well, clearly animals eat healthier than people.
That's true.
All right, so the produce is in a refrigerator, just like would be at your house. That means the meat and the fish is in a freezer?
That is correct.
Okay. How's that baby open?
Slide it right over.
There we go.
It's very cold in here.
All right.
We purchase things periodically throughout the year, so for long-term storage, you want it to be extremely cold.
Oh wow, this is the biggest freezer I've ever seen.
Right, and it's actually small. We could use more space, so that means that we just time things to receive items at certain times. And then we portion things out, so we have a very large meat saw, and so we'll cut things up into smaller. Yes, this is a carcass of a goat. And so if somebody only needs a 2-pound piece, they're going to have to cut it up. But if they need a larger piece, they'll bag it up and they'll deliver it. So for instance, our African wild dog pack, they're going to get a half of a goat in their diet per week. But yet the lions, each lion will maybe only get a 2-pound piece per week. So it just depends on the diet and the type of animal.
I see rats.
See, we have a lot of rabbits, rats, mice, chicks. It just depends on the type of diet that you're feeding, or even we have blood for the vampire bats.
Where do you get that?
Locally at Stanlin's Meat Market. And we have purchased beef blood for our vampire bat collection for years. It's a great relationship.
That is great. Smelled, I know a lot of fish. Man alive.
We do. We get about 6 kinds of seafood in, depending upon the size of the mouth that you're trying to feed. We have king penguins and we have little penguins. And so you have to buy different types of fish, and then with different types of fish come different nutrients within the fish.
You got to keep track of a lot of things.
We do.
I'm going to get out of here because it's freezing. I'll tell you what, it's colder in that freezer than I thought. How cold is that?
That freezer right this minute is -13.
Oh, that explains it. Yeah, I should have brought a jacket. So this obviously is dry food, but an awful lot of it.
It is our dry food. Sometimes we get things turned over within a week. More likely it's per month or maybe quarterly. It just depends on the usage and the type of animal that we are looking to send the food area to.
Some seem like I'd expect sunflower seeds like we use at our house for bird feeders. But
correct. We also use those for primates.
There's a lot of specialized.
Correct. We have salt blocks. We might have some alfalfa cubes to use for training. That's going to be pigeon. We have a lot of different pigeon species here.
Alpaca diet.
Alpaca diet. Over here you have a parrot food. You have a primate food. We get maybe 6 different types of primate food because we have a lot of different primates and they have different needs for
some are leaf eaters, some are
correct.
fruit eaters, whatever.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And
even,
today,
and even live food. What's all
that
this?
is correct.
Yeah.
Today we received our live feeder fish.
Okay.
And we have some
Don't touch.
mealworms. We have some wax worms, and we can kind of show everybody what they look like. Kind of have to get them to come to the surface.
Oh, look at those,
Yeah,
Boy,
and
I bet they love
this
those.
is something that we don't feed a lot to all the time because you wouldn't imagine, but if you analyze this waxworm, it's 50% fat.
Wow. That's,
Yes, so if
it's hard
say
to think of an animal that's 50%. That's more
Correct.
fat than a hippo.
correct, and it looks very small. It maybe weighs 0.16 grams, which is very, very small. However, its nutrients are very concentrated, and you might feed it to something that would consume an insect, or maybe a bird that's growing, or maybe a bird that's in its time to lay eggs, or whatever. But you have to be very cautious because the nutrients inside are very concentrated.
So, having been at the zoo a long time, Barbara, I think the strength of an accredited zoo having a nutritionist is you're really paying attention to what are people really getting. Because historically, my memory is we'd have these things, we'd sprinkle them all over everywhere.
That's true.
Just because
That's
animals
true.
liked them.
We try to kind of put them into the diet on a rotation or a certain quantity, knowing that they're going to be consumed and knowing the nutrients inside. And that's why every single thing in this room, while we may feed it only in a small portion, it provides that nutrient density of nutrients basically to go to the animal. And so, you know, it's like us taking a vitamin. It's a very concentrated product in a very small package. And then there's a lot of different variety here, so you can cover all the different species that we have. And then, of course, there are animals that don't eat anything like this. So, for instance, the manatees or the carnivores, so, you know, your lions and your tigers.
Sure.
And so then that's where we have them in the other areas.
And animals in zoos, many of them live longer than they used to, and I guess that's some preventative health care, more veterinary care, knowing more about husbandry, but also making sure, just like with people, they eat the right thing and not too much of it. Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah.
They're living longer than they would, so then we have to pay attention to, if they're a geriatric animal, you know, what are their needs once they become geriatric.
We were on a farm, of course, a lot of things would be stored in a barn, so I know we have a big barn here too, our hay barn. But this is specialized hay. This isn't just your random hay.
Correct. We buy 3 different types of hay, and we feed that depending upon the type of hoofed animal that we are looking at. So, for instance, this is our stack of alfalfa.
It's a lot softer than
It
a lot of
is,
hay
and it's a
bales.
very high quality alfalfa.
Yeah.
More or less, it's usually the 3rd cutting in the field of the alfalfa. So this is a very high quality, nutrient dense, small stems, really nice leaf. And so you're going to feed it to the okapi or the giraffe or the dikers or the bongo. And then you think about the elephants, and you're thinking, no way, this is not the right type of hay. You know, you need something that is more for a grazer, and so we're going to feed a timothy hay to that. And so it's a grass versus a legume, but the grass, the timothy grass hay, has lower nutrient, more fiber in there because they're a bigger animal, and that's the way that they need to digest it.
How much hay do we buy?
Well, about 8,000 bales a year, and 6,000 of that is timothy.
So now most folks don't know one hay bale from another, and this looks like kind of like straw to me.
It is straw.
Okay, so that's for bedding.
That is for bedding.
And the alfalfa was green, and that's certainly specialized food.
Correct.
How about this?
This is our timothy hay.
Okay.
Basically, this is our grass hay, so we're
Yeah,
going
so
to feed that to...
That looks like what you'd expect. It's a lot
correct.
coarser than that.
It is, and so you're going to feed it to the elephants, the hippos, and we need that in very large quantities. Those are very large animals, and so the majority of what we purchase each year is timothy hay.
And I imagine even at 8,000 bales, hay's pretty cheap compared to all that. The food inside all look like the kind of thing you buy in a grocery store.
Correct. The hay budget for the year is a lot lower than the produce or the meat or even combined.
Yeah. Barbara, thanks for this tour of the commissary. It points out to me how complex all this has become, but it leads to better care for our animals.
That's true.
Better lives, better husbandry, and longer lives, so that's a good thing.
It is.
And there's more to all this than it seems when you just think, oh yeah, you throw some food in with an animal. With this many animals, it takes a lot of work.